Hey YouTube, this is Kevin Bowen of Bowen Small Engine, and today guys I'm still currently working on that 128L for a customer whom basically decided to avoid my warning, okay, and purchase a cheap aftermarket carburetor from overseas for this weed eater. Guys, there's a reason that I tell all my customers to avoid the cheap carburetors from overseas as well as the coils. It's because in honesty they're pieces of shit. And for half the price, okay, of what potentially a new carburetor would cost, this guy decided that he was going to purchase this aftermarket carburetor and get me to put it on regardless of my warning. So I'm going to show you as viewers as to why I tried to do the right thing and warn him not to purchase such a cheap quality carburetor, and you will obviously see why here momentarily. Now note guys, I want you guys to understand that I really do not like these aftermarket carburetors. They're junk. Most of them, I should say, are junk. And you're obviously going to see why here momentarily. You're going to see that this weed eater will run and idle perfectly, okay? It will even accelerate perfectly. But look at how rich the gas is that comes out of this weed eater. And it's not because of the quality of the gas. I will even try to show that later as this video progresses. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set the camera down and I'm going to start the weed eater. I have had it running prior, so it could potentially be warm and start easier than what it would normally start. So without further ado and rambling on, I'm going to go ahead, set the camera down at this point and start the weed eater. As I said, viewers, the weed eater start very easy. Very little of an issue whatsoever. One crank actually. So I can't talk too bad about that, right? And watch, it'll even accelerate very well. But look at how rich that is. A lot of smoke coming out of that weed eater. And as I said, it's certainly not because of the quality of the gas. I'll actually show that to you after I turn this weed eater off. It's simply because of the way these carburetors are built overseas. I'll try to zoom in. You can see the gasoline is an excellent color. No problem whatsoever. It's actually Husqvarna oil, or I should say mix, that's put in this weed eater. And it's mixed properly. But as I said guys, that's one of the issues that you're going to run into with these carburetors. Also, that the check valves and the neoprene that are basically in these carburetors is really cheap. It's even cheaper than the Zamas that typically come on these trimmers, if you will, and blowers that use this style carburetor. I simply hate putting on these carburetors because I know what happens in the future. This weed eater is going to perform great for about a month. The customer's going to be happy when he picks it up, no doubt. But then it's going to start experiencing issues. And because the customer has bought this carburetor for 15 bucks, he's going to expect this carburetor to hold up like an OEM. I know this because I've ran into these issues several times throughout the years with people trying to pinch dollars. I can respect that. You know, I really can. But I wish I could get them to understand that if you buy cheap shit, you can expect cheap results. And as I said, this carburetor is not going to hold up. I absolutely know it to be a fact. But even though, you know, I'm in this situation, this is more of an obligation situation, as the weed eater actually belongs to a family member whom works for a guy, okay, I'm not going to give names, but who works for a guy who actually has the mentality that if something screws up, you know, it's never his fault. It's the mechanic's fault or the technician's fault. Why people have that mentality, I never know, but that's basically the mentality this guy has. I'm not going to give you a name, but as I say, he can be a real asshole sometimes. But regardless, as you can see, this weed eater does run. It does perform somewhat as intended, but it's not going to last. What I really also hate about these weed eaters, and I should say these projects, not really necessarily these weed eaters, but these projects, is once you commit yourself, okay, once you have a customer that's adamant and thinking that you can put cheap, inferior parts on a weed eater, they expect it. Once you have enough cheap parts on a weed eater, sadly enough, if it continues to screw up, you've then become committed to that piece of equipment just because of the customer that you have. And that in itself can be a pain in the ass, because a lot of this customers that you may have that are really old and adamant, and you know, they don't seem to understand that you can't, you know, try to put on a cheap carburetor or something really cheap and expect to get OEM results if that part basically isn't built to OEM specifications. And they will make your life a living hell, basically. So I try to basically avoid customers like that. And as sad as it might sound, a lot of these customers even have the mentality that, you know, they come first. I'm sure a lot of the technicians and even dealers out there know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. If they show up with their piece of equipment, they expect you to drop everything and run straight to them, okay? As if, you know, you've taken their equipment to love, cherish, honor, and hold till death do you part, if you will, okay? I despise people that act like that, to be honest with you. I personally will not fool with them. I really will. I will fire them as a customer. I mean, I don't care, you know, how they are, you know, where their mind is. I believe that, you know, if you're first come, you're first served. And, you know, unfortunately, not everybody's going to, you know, have my opinion. But I, for one, will not fool with people who act like that. Until the next video, YouTubers.